recording and we can just go. This was my choice, East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I chose East of Eden because it'd been in the news recently, and it turns out that Florence Pugh, a beautiful actress, I love watching her, is planning to do a miniseries of this book, East of Eden, by John Steinbeck. The book was written in 1952. It takes place like early 40s, will run up to World War II, I think, although it goes back earlier because it's a family saga. John Steinbeck himself lived from 1902 to 2002. Of course, he's a...
Oh, wow.
He's, I think, a Nobel Prize winner, I think. And I'm not exactly sure for which book, but his masterpiece is generally considered to be The Grapes of Wrath.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I read that. I was pretty blown away by that
Me
one.
too.
And I can't really say why. Just the dialogue and the familiarity of all the characters. So yeah, I was really into that, and I want to read that again someday. I even watched the movie, the black and white movie.
Oh, with Henry Fonda. Yeah, I think, right? The Joad family. I read it some time ago. And yes, he then became my favorite author based on that book alone, even though a lot of his other books, The Red Pony, The Pearl, they're sort of novellas, and they're rather depressing, I think. I also have taught one of his short stories, The Chrysanthemums, for years and years. He's definitely of a different age. And I didn't care for this book at all.
Oh, really?
Really?
I cared for it. I had trouble just like reading it. I don't know why. I guess because of this, because this is like a multi-generational legend. And of course, The Grapes of Wrath is linear. It's like this family unit has to make an odyssey across the country to a mythic land of California where there's work to be had as they leave their hometown and wander the wilderness. And then the hardship
rather than odyssey, maybe it's an exodus to the land of milk and honey.
Yep. And then they just have hardship after hardship and lose members, and then the ending is just a confusing question mark. But the movie is like a kind of happy ending, or it had a strange final soliloquy of like, that's why the family always goes on. And then just ends. But the book is way more like crazy.
I think that he's got pretty. I think he uses pretty universal themes that everyone can experience and everyone can find common ground on. They're also very iconic, like I think the Exodus. Maybe they're all biblical. I'm not sure. This one certainly is, because in this book, with this multi-generational saga, he sort of replays the story of Cain and Abel in 3 generations, from the Trask family primarily. So we start with Cyrus Trask, who was in the Civil War, lost a leg in the first battle he was in, and then through reading becomes a war expert, even gets a job in Washington. But it's not based on real experience. It's just from what he's read in books, and it's pretty counterfeit, actually. He is presented as a great man, but his son sees through him and knows he's not a great man. In fact, Cyrus Trask has 2 sons, Adam and Charles. So they're going to see this A and C, like Cain and Abel, throughout the book. And we see the contentious sibling rivalry between those two sons, Adam and Charles. Adam eventually also has two sons, Aaron and Caleb, nicknamed Cal, and they also play out their Cain and Abel story. So it's got a simple theme that is something that can be a nice, straightforward through line. But in this book, it's just full of all kinds of other characters and events and personalities. And so I think it just gets overwhelmed by all the extraneous stories.
Yep. Yeah, I think I had to keep thinking of the Grapes of Wrath, especially towards the end when the little one chapter of happiness. It's just like, oh, that's how the Jode family would talk to each other. Like this, I was immediately snapped back to like, oh, this is that. Wow, that's Steinbeck. Yeah, the Grapes of Wrath was like it was a smash hit. It was like a truly American story where I think out of the dust and mist, the main character Tom just appears and hitchhikes with a truck to get back to his family from somewhere. Maybe even he was like in jail or like had done time or something, but he rambles back to his family. They get the news that, well, the banks are taking the land and we got not enough yield here, so we some of them are like, I ain't leaving. And it's like, well, you have to leave. And so that's where the main character, the Mickey Mouse, the penniless dude, is the American hero who just, I got nothing, but I'm gonna make something. And but then that book was addressing like the actual crisis of the Dust Bowl and depression and just no social support at all. You're gonna have these migrant homeless Okies who become burdensome or the target of resentment of the people who aren't as devastated, and then you have social unrest, and then you're at war with yourself. But this one was
they're kind of domestic immigrants.
And so it's kind of funny that book is about, yep, you can restart your life, kind of, but this was about unless you can't, because the crisis is too enormous. It's like it's a national crisis. It's not just like you show up in New York as an immigrant. But funnily, the Cyrus was like the anti-version of that. How he goes to war, he loses a leg, he catches the clap, comes home, gives it to his wife, and his wife is like a kind of nutty too. She's a hyper religious and decides to sacrifice herself by drowning herself in the puddle. And then he squeezes in. And I thought this was kind of like, oh, Steinbeck is he's got like a weird humor, because he says the Trask mother was like, oh shit, when they pull my body out of here, my dress is going to be all dirty. And he writes, which it was when they did. And I'm like, what the hell? And so then that's kind of like, it was kind of, what is it? Who are the Coen brothers-ish? I thought a little movie scene of that, of her going in and then pulling her out. And so then he cons his way with, there's no verification that he had been in war. He was like wounded immediately. And the evidence is in his leg that he had seen battle. And he just cons his way into like deputy secretary of defense, whatever, and accumulates giant wealth from being an insider when deals are done and railroads are laid. And so he's like, hey, I did it, but he did it in a bad way. We're supposed to dislike him, of course. And
he did it in an underhanded way, and in the process, he rejected one son and forced the other son into a life that he didn't want. So, this is a lot about fate and inherited fate or destiny and free will, and so it's not exactly the opposite. I mean, it is about this free will idea and remaking yourself. But so many of these characters, and of course it's dominated by the male characters, are just kind of wandering through life and not there's a little bit of discussion of philosophy, which was very interesting, but there's not a lot of wisdom in this book.
Yep. Yeah, so that's true. It's funny. You could say that Cyrus is the success story. He did get a dream, and then he part of his dream was also having his son be in the army. He forced Adam to do that, and then just didn't really care about Charles, the other son, and that makes plants a seed of anger. But so yeah, it's almost like Steinbeck was very American with the Grapes of Wrath. He researched the whole Dust Bowl situation and turned it into an American story, but didn't really have a happy ending. And now this one is well, sure, you can make a life here, you can start over, but humans here have the same baggage of everywhere else. You can't escape. You can't escape your childhood. You can't escape your parents, your lineage. But then it ends optimistically. But you can deal with it. You can't erase it from yourself. You can erase it from other people and con your way up, but eventually it's gonna get you. But it still says but even that you have choices. So it's oddly the ending was optimistic, more so than the Grapes of Wrath. I thought the Grapes of Wrath is 90% you're feeling good and okay, you're I don't know, you're inspired. This one you're feeling uninspired and why you just want to give up. So it's the ratios are upside down, are reversed. If that makes sense.
That's interesting. Well, maybe and I have to admit I don't remember the Grapes of Wrath that well, but I know that I enjoyed it when I read it. But maybe the Grapes of Wrath is about hope, which is not yet realized, and this is about. There's just so little self-knowledge here. It's almost a coming-of-age story for the boys, and they seem to get stuck in adolescence and not knowing who they are. The only really the only real character that shows any real wisdom is Li, the Chinese, houseboy, for lack of a better word. He's the one that has wisdom and also tenacity and stick-to-itiveness and honor and, seeing things through, which is ironic. But they just seem to, again and again throughout reading this book, I sort of, okay, get on with it, change it, make a difference. They're all sort of especially this Adam Trask, who's the main character in the story, even though this story is sort of about, John Steinbeck's Genesis, with the Cain and Abel story running through it. But really his family, the Hamilton family, is really a sidebar. It's not really the main focus of the story. The Trask family is, which I think is kind of weird. But this Adam Trask is just in a fog for so long and so lacking in self-knowledge that I find it really frustrating.
Yeah, it's funny that there's all these different pillars that are continuing upward. And so you got Adam's wife, who is the darkest sociopath type, and from the start you're supposed to be she can't be helped. She's
just pure evil. She's just something lacking in her. She has no soul. So Kathy, his wife, is just unredeemable and lost forever and just pure evil.
Yeah, she kills her parents in a fire, leaves town
to become a prostitute.
Yeah, scams money that way.
She doesn't fall into prostitution, which is how women are generally depicted who are in that career. She goes into prostitution.
Yeah, she has a whole plan to just scam upward. But then she contrasts with Cyrus because she's she's putting work in and exploiting the weaknesses of, you know, moneyed men, or this is a thing in demand, and I can completely manipulate them, like into, you're gonna give me like everything, all your money. But then eventually, so she meets Adam and Charles after getting beaten up, almost killed. Adam falls in love with her like immediately, saying, "I'm gonna save you." He's the polar opposite. He's like just utter goodness to like a fault, to where it destroys him. And Charles is the total stoic, pragmatic person who should get her out of here. I don't know what it is. Something is wrong with her. She needs to get out of here. And you should stay here and just work on the farm. You should.
He's a workhorse. Charles is a workhorse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Toil is the way. But that's not that is American, but that's not the exciting American story. So okay, Charles, you're not going to be in the story for long. And so they whisk off. But Adam also is kind of a prodigal son too, because he gets forced in the army. He hates it. He has training as a cavalryman, and then he like dips out and becomes a tramp, becomes a hobo, just like wandering the roads. And he dabbles with like stealing, and eventually rambles his way. It goes to like South America, and eventually rambles his way back to Charles, who's there waiting. And they have the same dynamic too. Like, why don't you want to be with me? Why does no one want to be with me? Why did Cyrus like you better? I don't even get it. And so, yeah, he's filled with just confusion everywhere. And he gets a big fortune as well by working, and also inheriting from the father.
Mostly inheriting. Because Charles had no real life on the farm. He just worked. He worked and would visit prostitutes once in a while. That was his entire social life. He had no friends. He had no efforts to find a wife and create a family or anything like that. He just worked and worked. And he made a go of the farm, made it prosper, and couldn't understand why the beloved Adam wouldn't want to, stay with him and work hard like he did. It's this initial resentment that Charles has toward Adam, because Adam was favored for no perceivable reason. There's just that he was firstborn, but there's no real reason, because Charles is a hard worker and has all the qualities that a son should make a father proud of. And Adam is just kind of a, milquetoast, and just sort of does what his father tells him to do, goes into the army, even though it's not what he wants to do. He could have run away. He could have, made his own way away from the farm, but he didn't. He's very passive. And yet when Kathy crawls to the door, badly beaten by her pimp, he does, protect her and decides to marry her, even though Charles can see through her immediately. But we know that there's going to be trouble on the horizon, because she marries Adam, or the day before she marries Adam, she drugs him to make him sleep, and then she sleeps with Charles. There's no motivation behind that at all. There's like, why did she do that? There's no reason to do that, except we know from that of course there's going to be some paternity issues later in the story, and it's sort of almost a literary device. Just her pure evilness makes her sleep with Charles, no reason. And why does he sleep with her? Is he such an opportunist that he would betray his brother in that way? It's just, that had no rhyme or reason as far as I'm concerned. It just seemed like a literary device to create tension, that we know there's going to be a baby in the future, and we know that his paternity is going to be questioned.
Yeah, it's kind of it could be that, she's sociopath. She's just, I don't know, she just seeks out to like hurt people. But Charles was like drunk. He had gone to town, came back, and he's just frustrated in general. And it also could be another point that Adam is just in general just ineffective because he has twins. That's a miracle. You're lucky. 2 sons when sons are important. You got 2 of them. Like, oh, they're not even yours. And because he's just total romantic. He sees that I hear California, you don't even got to work. The land is just food just grows out of it by itself. There's water everywhere. Weather's good. So he's just total romantic. But before that, another dilemma is that Cyrus dies. He leaves them a huge, bunch of money, and Adam's like, yeah, let's just take it. Who cares? I mean, whatever. And it's like, well, but we know the money's stolen. He's tied up in government. They could come back to us if we reveal that he actually, if we say up front, like, actually this money shouldn't go to us. He didn't deserve it, because then they dig further. It'll besmirch his name. And Adam's like, I don't care about any of that. Just take the money and go. Just
conscienceless.
I want an American reset right now, but I want a California reset. And so Charles is he's not so interesting because he has clarity of where he's supposed to be, what he's supposed to do, and what should be done. So that's not good makings of a main character, I guess.
No, that's true. And he's just a sort of a, he influences the main character. He's too clear-sighted. I think you're right. He has too much clarity and he's not torn or twisted in any way. So we're not necessarily interested in him.
Right.
So Adam takes his wife, Kathy, now pregnant, to the Salinas Valley, buys a farm, is going to make much of it, and just assumes, of course, this is what I want, so of course it's what Kathy wants, which is kind of interesting. It reminded me of the doctor in The Emergency when he, at some point in that story, he said, well, this is what he wanted, and he just assumed his wife would want the same thing. After a long marriage, that's just what the assumption that a husband has, that of course the wife wants the same thing I want. It's kind of, I've had several instances of that in readings recently, and it is kind of interesting that it is a hallmark of a long marriage that, well, this is what he wants, and so of course she wants it.
Yeah, he's anyway. Totally the fantasist that wants to get away, which is the same as his son Aaron, and he gets a girlfriend like much later. But so they have 2 sons. Adam hooks up with Samuel Hamilton, who's the patriarch of the Hamilton family. Ironically, they've got like 9 kids or something, but no success because their land doesn't yield. And also he's got harebrained ideas for inventions that it says that he gets the patent, hires the lawyer, another company scams the patent, takes it from him. And he doesn't have the money to sue, so he throws his hands up in the air. He gets another idea. He makes the patent, it happens again. And he just quixotically lives his life thinking something's gonna come, but not really broken up about it.
No, he's this poor but happy soul who's got this this wife who's just lemons, but still she keeps the house clean and she's his rock, and they have all these kids running around, and they never make any money. They never had any money to start with, so they couldn't get the good land. This is in contrast to Trask, who's never farmed anything in his life, has no self motivation himself, has no ideas himself. He's only reactionary. He's not a self-starter. But because he has money, he can get the good land, and he has all these plans for making it great, which include Hamilton's input quite a lot. But then Kathy had warned him that when, if the babies come, even though she tried to self-abort earlier, when the babies come, I'm out of here, she told him. Don't be ridiculous, And he's just lives a life of denial his entire life. But guess what? The babies are born, and she does. She takes off. And he's just devastated by this. He's completely flattened. All the plans that he had for the farm in Salinas in the Salinas Valley are just forfeited. It just falls to rack and ruin. And these two sons are taken care of by Lee, the Chinese helper. He becomes the primary parent for the two boys, Aaron and Caleb. Aaron and Cal. Cal is called later on.
It's funny though, the whole scene about his whole thing is like, you'll feel better with the air. You know what it is? It's you're feeling bad. Of course there's like hormones that govern the behavior of a human. And then like, once they're born, you'll be all right. Once they're this, and I was like, that it's kind of, because that happens now, where
absolutely
postpartum, there's like women who just like, I don't feel anything, and then that cascades like, why do I feel like bad about this? Am I bad? Just, it's like, and I don't know, I'm not researched into it or anything, but I'm like, it actually is kind of just as mysterious as if a young mother is like, I'm feeling really depressed. The advice might be similar. You'll feel just get up and it'll pass. The blues will pass or something.
Sure.
Like, it's not as that's not as you'd have the same response maybe as Adam if you heard someone saying that. I don't want these kids. I don't want to be a mother. It's like, just hang in there or something.
Yeah, you'll feel different. It's not an unusual response. It's just that, but it just is it's just another evidence of his denial and his passivity, I think. So you'll be all right. It'll be okay. Everything will be fine. It's just kind of his way of looking at the world. His denial of the facts is his way of looking at the world. He didn't see through Kathy when she came. Why was she so severely beaten? She believed his stories. He believed her stories, excuse me. And it goes to that aspect of his character. She, on the other hand, I don't think there's any postpartum depression going on here at all. She was very clear from the get-go that she does not want this, and it's not going to be her life, and she'll leave. And she's made her own way before, and she's going to continue to make her own way again. Because once again, when she leaves the farm after the twins are born, where does she go? She goes to the town of Salinas and gets in in a whorehouse and starts her life of prostitution again, which is her choice. It's not, we have this image of any woman that's a prostitute has fallen on hard times, but this is a choice that she's made.
Right. So, but I want to go back to Samuel, and I was thinking, he's that, kind of never had big success, but I was thinking he's kind of the Joad family that made it. And they made it across. They got their land. They got the family. We're a unit. We're all together. Throughout when the kids talk to each other, there's like Olive, Tom, Desi, Will. Like you start learning all the kids' names and all their jobs. That they all talk to each other like, oh, remember the turkey? Well, yeah, we're gonna come home for Thanksgiving. They're talking about like holidays and stuff, which is just not spoken of at all in the Trask house. Like no. Lee talks about being from China, but the warmth of the Hamilton house is referenced all the time.
Oh God, they're the Waltons. There was this TV show with this huge family of Waltons. Did you ever see that on television in the United States? You're too young probably, but that's who they are. They're poor. And, it's Jim Bob and Joe Bob and Grandpa and all. And the end of every show, they go to bed and they all say goodnight to each other from all their rooms. Huh. And they're poor. But they love each other. Or it's a little house on the prairie. They have all these obstacles. That's a very common trope in American literature, that poor but happy in their poverty because they have each other, family. They're certainly prosperous in their family, having so many children. Of course, they're Irish. That's part of it. So yeah, he's content with his life. He knows he should do more or get more or be more successful, but because he didn't start with money, it's harder to make that progress. You know, the Trask
Right.
family makes the progress based on deceit and then inheritance, and the Hamilton family doesn't have that.
Yeah, it's funny, and he's kind of ironic because he's kind of a philosopher. He reads. He even
Reads. Yes, has to hide the books that he reads. He reads so much. Yes.
Yeah, he mentions and so he's kind of the more cerebral character. He's the one who delivers the babies. He's got medical experience with.
He's also a midwife. Yeah.
Yep, and.
But
and
my grandfather delivered his last 2 children.
Oh wow. Yeah, this is like the great your grandparents' age. And
Yes.
so he's the steady one, reliable, reasonable, wise. He's the wisdom. When you said there's not much wisdom, it was like, well, that's Samuel, but he is a side character, but and I saw him as the Jodes that made it. But then the other funny thing is that he made it, but then all his kids are also. It's not the parallel of like the Trasks are like you have to deal with what you're inheriting from your lineage, and it's like, but do you? And Lee is like, yeah, but you don't. You can choose whatever you want. And then we're looking at the Hamiltons, like they inherited this warm house and they got hard stuff too. Desi lived alone. And she had a stomach pain that just was like maybe a cancer or something that she just kept secret for who knows why. Tom had like a restlessness and like depression. And then he thought tried to give her country medicine like salts but then she died that day, and he thought it was him. He blows his brains out. And the only successful one is Olive, who marries a Ernest Steinbeck and has 2 kids, John and Mary. So they made it. So it's
and
just
there's
like
one more successful one, Willie. Willie's the one that went into town and became a car salesman. He's successful financially.
Yeah, he's kind of con good.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the acceptable con that we're so if there's like a what's the word? Like a rubric of character profiles. You've got on total opposites. You've got Kathy, abandons the young, tries to kill the husband
right before she leaves, she shoots him. Yeah.
Yeah, like a praying mantis that eats the mate's head, and also kills the parents. Like that's from the start. She burns up her own parents. So then you got Adam, who's just he's not savvy enough, ineffective, romantic, wants to. He says, like, I think I want this to be like a garden, like Eden. It'll be like east of Eden. It'll be like another Eden. And I'm like, and Samuel's like, yeah, I mean, okay. But the ironic thing about Samuel, he's this, cerebral character, but the way he finds water is with a stick. That
the dowsing
feels
stick.
The divining rod. Oh, there's water over here. What? Okay, wow, you're lucky. Like was another like, well, okay. So
there's there's not a lot of depth in any of the characters. I think they are sort of acting through fate. They're sort of compelled to do certain things. It's almost as if like Kathy, she's evil, but she just kind of doesn't even have a choice. She just is what she is. And the same is true for the boys, and the same is true for Adam. They're just who they are. That's who they are. And this is the result of who they are. This is how they're going to go through life. It's, there's not a lot of depth. I think because the focus is spread so wide. The Hamilton family is actually John Steinbeck's family. Samuel Hamilton was his grandfather. And so he pays homage to his aunts and uncles, but, they're just sort of this cast of characters that are sort of coming on the stage and off. The main focus is the Trask family again. And I find that curious they're the rich family. Is that who we look to, or is it that we're just so celebrity driven that we look to that family? We don't look at our own family to be the interesting characters in the story. It just, that kind of irritated me, I think. Sort of like Harry Potter author who has no sons, has a daughter, but made the hero of her series of books a boy. What's wrong with you? Why don't you make the hero a girl?
Well, I think that it's because he wanted to examine or I don't know, is it allegory? I don't know if that's the right word, where Cain and Abel were two Old Testament characters who are brothers, and God is like, you're brothers, you're with me, you're supposed to do what I say, work hard. But when you have conflict with someone close to you, how do you resolve that? We just follow the rules forever. One's resentful, one is more well off than the other. And so then Cain kills his brother in anger or something, and then he's marked that you're not going to die, but now you are just shamed forever, and everyone who sees you will know what you did, and you have to live your life like that. And so Charles, actually, there's a scene, another strangely humorous thing where Charles is toiling. He takes a crowbar to move a rock, and it just snaps out, hits him in the head, and he's scarred on his head. That's his mark. And then, but also, Kathy also, from getting beaten up, she gets a scar on her head too. So she's marked as well, but those are just little references. They don't really mean anything.
They don't necessarily, I noticed that as well, but I didn't see any necessarily significance or similarity between the two marks, except that they're both, he slept with his brother's wife, and that's bad. But he didn't deserve to get a scar. He was working hard and doing his duty on the farm. So, it's different with Kathy's scarring. There's sort of you can make a case for, of course she's scarred because she had an evil life and she deserved the scars. I think they're probably factual details of the people that he actually knew, and so he put them in there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I thought that too when you say that this was his much later book, and maybe his editors and publishers were like, can you how about we have Adam find a girlfriend, or he redeems himself, and they were like, no redemption. It's all a question mark. Yeah,
that's not what happened. I think that by the time he wrote this, they weren't troubling him at all. They weren't telling him what to do at all.
But when you say,
that's why it's so long.
But I was thinking that too. I was like, why is this person in here? Why do we need to know about Desi's stomach ache? Who else was in there? Oh, so much about the characters next to Kate when she's the madam of that brothel. And he's he's just it's all going in. I remember this. I heard this. This is gonna be in there too.
Yeah, I had the same sense. Also, it's jumping from character to character, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because he introduced all these characters, so he has to sort of finish each one's story. But the story about Kathy, who renamed herself Kate in a severe lack of imagination, her henchman gets his own story, and then for Ethel, I think one of her whores in the house that has her own story, and they're completely superfluous, not even necessary at all. She feels mildly threatened by them, and they cause her to act in certain ways, but we could have found another way to do that. But I think, they're in this, he introduced them into the story, and so he felt compelled to give them some more lines or something like that.
Well, then we spend time with Kathy, who is now at the top of her, I guess she's reached the heights she's wanted. She's got money, and people are afraid of her, and they do what she says. She usurps the previous madam, and by poisoning her, who actually
killed her too.
Who did love her, you're my daughter. I don't want you to work here. I want you to do something else. And she even when she drinks, the devil comes out. She becomes full on the devil, and and I think even from then on, she keeps being described as like having sharp teeth when she
Yeah.
smiles and stuff.
Yeah.
And even her hands become claws from like arthritis
Yeah.
that she wears
Because of the
she wears
arthritis.
gloves.
And she's probably 40 years old. I mean, really. Because the boys are still in high school, right? And how old do you think she was when Adam married her? I'm thinking she's between 40 and 50, but she's treated
I
as
think
this
she's
horrible crone.
She's like 37 or something. I bet she's
Yeah,
married.
it's really
married
young.
Yeah.
Way too young to be depicted in this way, except that she's sort of rotting from the inside because
Yeah.
she's so evil.
She builds this like kind of her tomb already with no windows, and that's referenced like, I built that for her. Strange, no windows, which is like a mausoleum.
Yeah.
And she
Very
says
peculiar.
that the light hurts me, so she wants to be in just like darkness. And she even so there's different confrontations where Adam confronts her, like, I see you now. I want you to know that Charles left us his money when he died. All the monies are always conveniently $100,000. And I think it's supposed to be ambiguous. Like, so Cyrus's fortune went to Charles. He did nothing with it. He passes it along to Adam and Kathy. So Adam confronts her, saying, like, I understand now. I'm over it. But I live honestly, so you're entitled to half the money. And so then she's gets, a dilemma's laid at her feet. Like, well, if I try to claim it, then it'll come out that I'm his wife. They'll investigate that I shot him. Why did we break up? Oh, I've got 2 kids. And the cops told me, like, if you say you're with, if you use that name, we're gonna run you out of town. That's the deal she made. So she can't really get the money. But later it's revealed she does get the money. She just somehow she was able to get over that hurdle.
To tell you the truth, I forget. I do know that when she runs away, as far as the town of Salinas from the farm, which is in the Salinas Valley, so I don't know what a great distance it is, and moves into this brothel and begins working, the sheriff of the area and the deputy know, and they make a pact. They make a vow never to tell Adam that his wife is there. So that, again, another literary device. It's sort of like the brother sleeping with her. Oh, well, if we've got a secret, then we've got dramatic tension, right? It was kind of, I don't know. I found it, I don't know if this was written for another time, or perhaps people were really trying to get out of, a fate that they didn't want, that they just inherited, and fathers really were telling their sons exactly what they had to do, but it just seems dated, I guess.
I thought it's like
creaky.
It's like freaking HBO series like Deadwood or Sopranos or Boardwalk Empire, where they go back. Like, your mother was this. It's a secret, or I'm your mother. Actually, your sister, your aunt is your mother is not your mom. I'm your mom.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
okay.
all these
right.
like.
So yeah, it is the stuff of literary, dilemmas.
So
the most interesting.
But then Caleb confronts Kathy and says, like, I just want her to get a look at you, and I see you, and Lee is right. I'm not. You're in me, but I don't have to be like you, and that's it. So then she doesn't like that. That's another kind of punch in the face. She's like weakened by this careful web of control she has over this her life. Then finally, Caleb's got a secret that he could never tell Aaron, the other twin, about it. He's too sensitive. He's he's the ineffective brother too. He's too hyper romantic. It would blow him up or whatever.
Yeah.
So then the book focuses on the brothers, the twins. They become, men. And Aaron's the same thing. He gets a girlfriend and he wants her to be perfect or to be some fantasy. He considers becoming a priest. But he doesn't know what's wrong, why he feels out of place. And Caleb is more, interesting. So he wrangles a bunch of money with one of the with Will Hamilton by just like optioning beans for the war, where they grow beans for 2 cents, sell it to Britain for 10 cents, like a 5x return on your money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And yeah, then in the end, Cal.
Well,
what happened?
he earns the money. He goes and does this deal with Willie in order to give the money to his father. So Cal's problem is he always felt rejected. And this is this same Cain and Abel story. It's kind of the primary love triangle that Cain and Abel both make their offerings to God, and God arbitrarily rejects Cain's and accepts Abel's. And here we have the same situation with Charles and Adam. The father, Cyrus, liked Adam and didn't like Charles for some reason. He slighted Charles, and Charles became resentful. It's always the C brother that resents the A brother. And then with the twins, Aaron, everybody loved Aaron. Caleb, or Cal, was darker. He was not as well liked. He didn't fit right. He was poorly cast, is the way that he describes himself, and he never fit in the poor properly. And, you know, he always feels that his father never loved him. Adam never loved him. When he meets his mother, he realizes it's because Aaron looks like Kathy, and that's why Adam prefers him or favors him. So previously to this, Adam had bought interest in an ice house in Salinas, or in the Salinas Valley, and he gets this scheme, a la Samuel Hamilton, to refrigerate the lettuce that's grown in the Salinas Valley by using the ice from the ice house and sending it by train cross country. And of course it fails because there are interruptions and delays, and so the ice melts and the lettuce turns to mush. So Cal decides to go into this bean deal with Willie Hamilton in order to give the money to his father to make up for the lettuce fiasco. But Adam rejects it. I don't want this. Give it back to the farmers who stole it from, because it can be perceived as war profiteering, right?
Yeah.
You know, making too much money at the expense of war. And so again, Cal's offering to the father is rejected for, a reason that's not even understandable to him. You lost money. I'm trying to give you money. That's what you love me. Please love me.
Yeah.
And it just never works.
And Adam, another story point. Adam becomes part of the draft board that calls on boys to go to war, and it just really wears on him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of why he's just like, oh my God, these boys are going and you're making money off the war. I don't want to be soiled with this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just, I got more into it towards the end. Maybe because I thought this is all gonna be resolved. But when Cal is hurt by that, he says, well, I'm gonna hurt you and take it out on Aaron I'm just gonna show him Kathy. And Aaron goes apeshit, punches Cal, runs away, and then Kathy, who had known about Aaron, decides to poison herself and writes a little will that all my money goes only to Aaron, which is all right, fine. Again, another $100,000. So the Rubik's Cube. So, and also, anyway. Then we find out Aaron had joined the military.
Yeah. How ironic is that? Adam is forced to join the military by his father, and he just becomes kind of a peacenik. Although he serves on the draft board, he doesn't like it. And then Aaron runs away, who had been a student at Stanford and was going to go into the ministry. He comes home dissatisfied. He's just too pure. And then when it's revealed who his mother is, he joins the army.
Yeah, he's just too, who knows?
He's too good for this world.
So then we're closing to the end, and his girlfriend, Abra, is kind of relieved that he knows everything now, but she knew he wasn't going to work out because he had this fantasy applied to her, and she's like, I don't want that. Turns out because her family's like that. Her family pretends to be well off and well-to-do, but actually her dad's a con man also, and she wants to be with like real people, and she bonds with Lee, who he starts out as a fake person with a fake accent, just a servile guy who just got nothing else better in life, but he actually has a really rich life, being with the people who appreciate him. And this is where I was like, oh, this is like Grapes of Wrath. He says, oh, he wishes she was Lee's daughter, and she says, oh, I love being here. I wish you were my dad. And they embrace, so there's happy times. And then he senses death is coming, and he hears the doorbell, doesn't want to get it, picks up the note that's left, and it's a telegram that Aaron was killed in World War One. It's World War One, I'm pretty sure. And that puts Adam into a stroke.
Yep.
Another final revelation. Cal feels like I triggered him into joining the army. I killed him. I made him go. He died, of course, into the machine gun fire of World War One. Then, and he wounded his own dad, and he tries to admit that I did it. It was me who showed him Kate. And Cal reads his stroke impaired face that like, oh, I knew it, you did it. So Cal is devastated again, and Lee says, I'm sure. So this is when I realized Lee is the mother of the Grapes of Wrath in this book, ironically. Because that's what the mother does. Everyone wants this is not going to work, and she's like, the mother in that book is keeping everyone together.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lee just explains to Adam, like, he thinks he sent him, but you wouldn't do that. You're too good. Kind of like, the last, the thing that, I don't know, if he was aware, it could break finally his like such good view on people, or his romantic view, maybe. But then mysteriously, Adam says one word. He says timshel, which is the Hebrew word for you can, and which is shorthand for like you can choose your own fate. You have will of your own. Yes. Which could mean don't worry about it. I don't know.
Well, okay, so that's right. And that's how it ends. There's no real resolution, but it does seem that Adam then finally has some self-knowledge and realizes that he's forced this kind of inherited destiny on his children. And he goes back to the story of Cain and Abel, that earlier when he had the two sons were born, Kathy runs off, and Adam is just useless. Samuel Hamilton comes to the farm and says, we have to, knock some sense into him. We have to wake him up. He has to name these boys. He hasn't even done that. And Samuel Hamilton and Lee and Adam have a philosophical discussion about Cain and Abel, the Cain and Abel story in the Bible. And they discuss it at some length. And this is the most interesting part of the book that I find. And they ultimately decide to name the boys Caleb and Aaron. But then Later in the book, Lee does a deeper dive in this story, and he consults the Chinese wisdom, wise men, and experts. And he comes up with this, through all this discussion, that these different translations of the Bible have different words in that in the rhetoric between and in the conversation between God and Cain. The fact let's see. So when they're discussing the interpretations of the Cain and Abel story, Adam says it's useful as an excuse for ancestral evil or guilt in creation. So he sort of sees this sort of destiny aspect of the Cain and Abel story. The mark of Cain is on you, you're bad, there you go. Lee said, the story was written by shepherds, so of course the lamb offering by Abel was the one that was preferred by God. God rejected Cain's offering from his land, the fruits and vegetables or whatever it was that he grew, or wheat or whatever it was, and he accepted Abel's offering of a sheep. And so Lee says, well, of course, the Bible was written by shepherds, and so of course they like the lamb offering better, and that's why the rejection occurs. Samuel says, God can have preferences. Maybe he wanted Cain to try again, but he took it out on his brother. Cain is the one that gets a preserving mark. That mark of Cain saves him, so nobody can take revenge on him. They know who he is, but he has to live with that. And Cain is the one that has children in the Bible. So we're all sons of Cain. So, it's just kind of earmarking again that the evil of human beings. So Lee does further investigation, and he comes up with the American version of the Bible. The translation is, do thou go and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so those are the instructions that God gives to Cain. Do thou. So it's kind of an order. This is the way you do it. The British version is thou shalt. Thou shalt go to, the land of Nod, east of Eden. And that indicates the idea of predestination, which is very British. But the Hebrew version of the Bible is that word timshel, which means thou mayest, which of course fits in with, as we know from the Idiot's Guide to the first 10 books of the Talmud, that discussion and argument and what does it mean and how long can we discuss this certainly fits. And of course, it is for our Western ears the idea of free will. And you can do it. You can do what you want. You're not limited by what you are predestined to do, and you're not limited by what you are ordered to do. Mm-hmm. You can do that. Thou mayest do what you want to do. And so that's how the book ends. Make yourself, instead of being limited by what you've inherited from genetics from your parents or what your parents have forced you to do. You can be yourself and you can do yourself. I found that to be an interesting philosophical discussion. It took up about one chapter of this 600-page book, but I thought that was very interesting, and sort of psychological overtones that Abra has as she interprets what's wrong with Cal, that Cal missed having a mother. He didn't have a mother, and that's what's wrong with him. He's always been fearful that God will reject him. He's always been fearful that his family will reject him, following with the Cain and Abel story. And the final revelation on his deathbed, Adam says, thou mayest.
Yeah, so, yep. I remember that stuff about the whole, Talmudic research. I didn't really catch it. Wow, so that's good. I read it on Google. What is that timshel? And it's kind of like this is a book, a literature to explore that whole thing of, we've got the Cain and Abel version of decision, but this one, I'm going to try to improvise it. You've got like inherent goodness, inherent badness. Those are Kathy and Adam. Then you've got like circumstantial what you would do in this circumstance, whatever life you happen to be in. Is that good? Is that bad? Then you've got like good and bad decisions of your youth, and should you still bear that burden like your whole life? Like Adam keeps bringing up how his own brother had almost took like an axe to him when they were so angry, and he's like, "Oh, is my brother like a murderer?" And then that those all multiply against each other. And then how do you apply that into your own future? What philosophy do you use to address the inherent qualities you think you have? Are those even real? And then and we're supposed to think they are, because Charles and Adam are exactly like Aaron and Caleb. So Steinbeck's like, yeah, that does happen. But then the Hamiltons contrast that, because there are good, rigorous good. But the kids all came from the same place. They had a bunch of circumstantial random things, like Desi just had bad health, and that devastated her brother. So it's like, yeah, it's a whole exploration of what you can do, what you should feel about it. And I thought about how one thing that the Christians do is that, grace is that divine relief from whatever happened before. He's not so worried about it as long as you like try harder.
Keep trying.
Yeah, that's like grace. You're like, oh, really? Oh, thank you. So it's like that's the Christian's response. Like, just the circumstance. Who knows circumstance? And you do have whatever in you. But God, if you just tell God, then that grace and then that relief you feel will make you hopefully a lifetime member and give us money.
And also will make you interact with people around you in a better way. So it's like, sometimes you're going to get rejected, and sometimes for no reason that you can understand, and you can turn it inward and become depressed, or you can turn it outward and become angry, but you can also be the master of your own fate. And, I think that everybody, I think he says this in the book, everybody wants to be loved. And that's what everybody wants. And if you feel insecure in that way, whether it's God doesn't love you, or your father doesn't love you, or your mother rejected you, or your girlfriend, or whatever it is, it's gonna come out. You can't keep secrets, and you have to deal with it. You have to communicate. You have to try and continue to show love or give grace, if that's a good term to use. And this shows that, Abra falls in love with Cal. She rejects Aaron, who is the perfect person and lovely, all-American boy, but she turns to Cal. Why? Because he's complicated, because she understands him, because she sees the flaws but loves him anyway. Give grace or love one another, and what kind of man are you going to be? It's kind of a coming of age, because we're dealing with these boys through their adolescence. And even Adam, he finally gained some wisdom on his deathbed, I think. But it is kind of a coming of age for what kind of man are you going to be in this world where we are? There's good land, there's bad land. What are you going to do? What kind of man are you going to be? I guess. But it was way too long with way too many characters. And so it loses a lot of impact, because the through line gets muddled because of all the other characters and all their other stories going on here. And it doesn't have enough punch because of all the extraneous characters and their stories.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, well, it's 4 parts. It's almost like maybe it's 4 books. It should be, or 2 books or something. But
it is 4 parts, yeah.
And then even each chapter has parts. It'd be like chapter 17, 1, blah, 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 2, blah, 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 3. So it's like it's a saga.
It is a saga. And it is, I was way into the book when I realized, I saw the Cain and Abel thing going through, and I saw the the boys' names beginning with the same letters. And I thought, oh, that's interesting that he's kind of doing that. I said, this is like Genesis. So this is his Genesis. That's what this is. It's John Steinbeck's Genesis. And he sees these primal stories playing out again and again through the generations. So that when you said about the Joad family making this exodus, making this Odyssey, which is another classic story, but it's more like an exodus, through the desert. He maybe that's what he does all the time, is he plays with these universal and really iconic and classical themes, biblical or Greek, whatever, and sees how they play out in humankind.
Yep. And I thought too, like, oh, it's too long, too many references, until he references San Leandro for like no real reason.
Yeah.
When Lee says, oh yeah, I got drunk one time, wound up in San Leandro playing tennis with bats in a church bell. Anyway, how are you?
Well, I found Lee to be the most interesting character that, like James in the book we read, James, by, what's his name? I can't remember the author's name. He puts on the fake language. Oh, yeah, very good, but then really he's very articulate. He's well read. He wants to run a bookstore. He is nurturing to the boys as much as he can be, not enough, of course. When he finally does hug Abra when she's an adult and decides that she misses coming there and she really loves Cal, it is the first human contact that was really good and human in the whole book.
Yep.
And he still, I found when he went to try to explain that Cal was feeling guilty, this is all his fault, he brought on the stroke because he did this to the brother. I found Lee's explanation clear as mud. I didn't think he said near enough in his wise words to Cal, but we all have our shortcomings. Who am I to say that, Steinbeck muddled this up, really?
I just, I just struggled with it to get through it. Because of the different characters and
Yep.
It's just,
who's this again? Who is that?
It's just extraordinarily long. Something inside was like, this should be over-ish soon.
Well, there is a movie. There is a East of Eden movie, and it stars Julie Harris and James Dean and Burl Ives. And Raymond Massey, I think, plays the father. And it's much clearer. They've changed things to make it more pronounced. But you should watch that. It's fun to watch just to see what kind of actor James Dean was, because his career was cut short. I think he died in a car accident or something. And he's against type, Cal. He doesn't look like Cal, but that's the part that he plays. But that made it much clearer. The obstacles and the contentious points were much clearer in the movie, much shorter.
It's funny too. Our old San Leandro friend Kevin Lowe is here in town in Fukuoka, and he told me that I was told him I had to do this podcast, and he said, "Oh, my family, my great-grandfather came from China to Salinas."
No kidding.
And I was like, "Was his name Lee?" So I said, "What the heck? Wow, yeah, you're that's him." Then so you're in the book.
Well,
too.
Somebody had to do it.
Yeah. So I got our next book, another unit, 340 pages. It's called The Gates of Europe, A History of Ukraine.
Oh.
So.
Oh, boy.
By Penguin, so it's good, or republished by Penguin. And, going to talk about maybe going way back into that whole Eastern Europe, which I don't know anything about, all of those states over there that became the Soviet Union, then broke apart into their own countries. Now I teach Ukrainians English over Zoom, and it's just it's crazy. I've had Both of them, their buildings have been hit by drone strikes, and one of them only has power, should have power 8 hours a day. That's rationed out, but sometimes it just doesn't turn on. And another one had to move because they couldn't live in that building anymore. And it's crazy.
So you teach via Zoom English to students in Ukraine?
Yep.
In Kyiv?
In Kyiv.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So we're gonna read it.
Okay, what's the author's last name?
Plokhy. Serhiy Plokhy. Plokhy.
Okay.
It's seen as the definitive book that.
Okay.
To know it.
All right. Whew. Okay. Well, another heavy dose then.
Yep. Well, the other book I had was another even heavier dose, but that is later.
Okay, I can't. This is as much as I can handle. So, take pity on me.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
so that's it. Till next time.
Catch you on the flip side.
Catch you on the flip side.